I want to leave a legacy. I want to make an impact. And, being positive and nurturing and paying forward, is something that I enjoy doing every day.
If you're familiar at all with Canadian education, I know you'll be familiar with Robert Martellacci. Robert has been working tirelessly for over a decade in bringing Canadian educators together, sharing the good work that's happening across the country. There's just not many people, if you're not familiar, if you're one of my US colleagues listening, Canada does not have a federal education branch, if you will. And so we don't have very many agencies and groups and organizations that do this kind of work. And Robert is one of those people that has. And he's just done a tremendous job over the years of connecting people and sharing the wonderful work that's happening across our country. And so it was my privilege to be able to interview Robert just to hear a little bit about his perspective. What is he seeing? What is he noticing in innovation? And what are his hopes as he thinks about what's next in Canadian education? And certainly he and I both share a strong passion for networking and bringing people together. So he and I definitely bond over that. And I hope you enjoy my conversation today with Robert Martellacci of MindShare Learning.
Well, thanks to Dr. Gary Stager, who inspired me to pursue a master's in EdTech at Pepperdine, teaching old dog new tricks back in 2006. I was inspired to start podcasting, and it inspired the launch of our Canadian EdTech report, which now on a monthly basis, it was monthly, but now there's been so much going on. We started a weekly report. We just released one this morning. You can find out at at mindshare.com or .ca. But we have a North American at Can-Am report that we publish to share what's happening on the North American scale. So yes, we're very mindful of bringing knowledge and insight, from across Canada to help get beyond pockets of innovation, but also internationally. We had the OECD head of research that spoke at our summit back in October at McGill, and we really rely on a lot of our friends and colleagues from the U.S., like Keith Kruger, who is the CEO of COSIN, and Lisa Schmucke, who's the founder of EdWeb. It's a great professional learning platform. So we're looking forward to connecting with some of these leaders and Canadians to get their perspective on Mindshare TV while we're down at FETC this week.
When you, one of the things I know that you're a big part of, and I think your home base there is kind of an innovation lab in and of itself. Talk a little bit about the sort of current state of the Canadian EdTech startup industry. There was, it seems like an ebb and flow kind of place, but I know your fingers on the pulse of it. So what's exciting and new in the world of startup in Canada?
Well, if I move my screen over here, you could catch the EdTech Alliance that we launched at the summit back in the fall. So connecting Canadian EdTech sector to drive innovation and support student success. There are some 500 EdTech organizations that are doing business and serving the market in Canada. And there's never been a greater pent-up demand for incubation. And we have Steamworks Studio from Princeton here in our workspace that's now come into Canada, has some great workshops and, personalized STEM kits, but they infuse the arts as well. So it's never been a more exciting time. I think our generation of graduates today want to make an impact on, embracing those, sustainability goals, if you will, from the UN. And we've seen a proliferation of startups. What's really critical is that they have that pedagogical insight, whether they bring someone on board like Dean Sharetsky, who's been in the industry a long time, or others, educators on the team. That's one of the greatest failings that I've seen with some of the ed techs that just spin their wheels trying to understand what's going on. And we nurture and support that. I'll share a quick success story with you. One of the startups that emerged out of McGill University, and you would have seen them at one of our conferences, Grade Slam, wanted to offer equity and tutoring across the system to all students. They failed in Canada, but Phil Cutler persisted, went down to California, the worst performing region, Compton area, and went to the superintendent and said, "We want to bring tutoring to the masses." And they embraced it. COVID hit, ESSER funding. They have now become a unicorn and rebranded to paper learning,
Paper.
and
Yeah.
are leading edge. They're infusing AI in the process. They have almost 3 million students. We're presenting them at the Can-Am event in Florida. We're presenting the Canadian EdTech Company of the Year award to Phil Cutler, the CEO and co-founder.
Yeah, and it's such a seems like a bit of a moving target when it comes to what works and what doesn't. So just even more broadly, and I know Robert, you guys put out a nice report each year, kind of highlighting trends, and it's really kind of the go-to, especially here in Canada, our go-to resource for that kind of thing. And I know you highlighted 10, but
Yes,
rather than going through all 10, uh, maybe think of two
right.
emerging topics that you think we got to be paying attention to this if we haven't already, for now and for the near
I,
future.
Absolutely. So, as I crystal ball gazed, I relied on our board of advisors and C21 Canada, insights from the CEO Academy. And so, number one at the top of the list, Chat GPT was our number one. And we shared a resource from a Columbia University doctoral student who created a teacher guide. So, as Chris Kennedy said, let's not start banning things right away as we did when I had my first Texas Instruments calculator was banned. The iPad was banned. Computers were banned initially. We need to figure out how, coming back to Marshall McLuhan, who world famous U of T professor who talked about, we create technology and then it shapes us. So let's learn to understand how we can promote critical thinking and other skills in combination with a chat GPT, because AI is not going away. It's really come of age. So that was my number one. And I don't know if you've had experiences with it, but I punched in, we're hosting our 25th anniversary summit, create a press release with these items. And in a minute or less, it created a draft press release, and I just had to tweak it. So there is value to these tools. It's just understanding where they have a place. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that one is going to be one that certainly we're talking. I mean, I'm hearing everything from like we're just at the start of this. Like, apparently there's a new version of ChatGTP that's in beta testing right now that has it was like 500 or 5,000 times the amount of data that's in it, and it's going to be even more
Wow.
intuitive. And I think, I mean, let's acknowledge the fact that there are some potential dangers and there will be some bad things that come with it. That's just part of
Sure.
it. We know that. Like, this is not I don't think there's anybody here that's looking at this, completely blind to say, "Oh, this is just the greatest thing ever." No, but I think, to your point, and I want to lead this into my next question with you. You kind of phrase like, let's see what this, like, there's a conversation to be had. There's an exploration to be had. Not to say that we're just going to, open it wide open and say, let's just go. But coming together and having conversations, and that's the next part of it is Robert, you're a master networker, and one of the reasons you've been successful as you have, is your ability to bring people together and have conversations, not necessarily to do anything more than that. Like you don't have an agenda to say, well, this is the outcome that like let's
Right.
let's talk and sort of put our trust in the smart people that we know. And so, I mean, talk a little bit about, you got a book coming up and just sort of your overall journey around networking, why that's such a valuable part of your professional and personal world.
Well, and thank you for your kind words. And we all have our gifts, and it wasn't something that was part of my DNA. It just over time, that's who I became, and I nurtured some of those gifts. And so, yeah, the name of the book is The Art of Networking in the Digital Age: Your Playbook to Building Human Connections to Thrive. Quite simply. And it's about making an impact as we go through our careers. And and this isn't my first career. I was a sport information director. I was involved in recreation and sport at the university level, and I was on the business side of the university and administration, launching Kevin O'Leary's startup school division. You would remember it well, the Learning Company, and Rita Rabbit and Oregon Trail products. So, I've evolved, and that's one of the key elements of learning, is that, embracing that growth mindset. Mrs. Fogarty, my grade 12 English teacher, wrote in my yearbook, "The only sign of life is growth," and drew a little flower. I read that thing over and over, and I'm like, is she worried about me? What is she trying to tell me? That instilled a growth mindset. So what's really important is for teachers, leaders, you know, parents, to understand words are powerful, and you can inspire or disengage a student by what you say, or your child. So, I've been blessed to, kind of navigate through this, circuitous route to where I am today. But I always found that, and sport was a big part of my lifestyle. But as I grew and evolved, and the networking piece, I started to see that the connections, and as I went through my master's program and we studied leadership and the importance of mentorship, and you know and mentees, and that symbiotic relationship. I want to leave a legacy. I want to make an impact, and being positive and nurturing and paying forward, is something that I enjoy doing every day.
Well, and you do a great job of it, and I think the greatest testimony you have so far is the fact you've been doing this for a number of years. And in fact, uh, I recall the first time I met you. I don't know if you recall the first time we met, but it was actually at FETC, and
Yes.
you and I were both in a session where the presenter didn't show up, and you kind of launched an impromptu sharing session with people. It was about 100 people in the room, and hey, we're here. Let's not waste our time just sitting and staring. Like let's see what's happening. And I remember it was, yeah, there were a number of people came up and shared kind of the. I don't even remember what the topic with the session was, but I think you tried to bring it back to the reason that they were there, to learn about whatever. And so I mean, I think that's just something that you just have done and figured out how to do. When you think about um, Canada, and I think you and I are both, as we do work in the U.S. as well, we're both pretty proud of our heritage in education, and the fact that we come from a country that is pretty well respected in terms of the education that we do. I don't know that we do a great enough job sharing that beyond that. So it's people like you and maybe people like me that can help the rest of the world understand. Hey, there's some really good things happening in Canada beyond just some nice test scores and things and that we have in our favor. But when you look across the country, Robert, can you maybe identify, I don't know, one or two districts or things that you're seeing happening in our schools that are bringing you a lot of hope and a lot of uh, just positive energy from what they're doing.
So, last year's winner of the Schools of the Future Challenge, there was a school in Louis Riel School Division, and Melissa Burns was a music teacher who during COVID was told you can't play instruments, you can't sing. So she pivoted to esports, and her students started using Minecraft. And she had no background in this. So she grew into it with the middle school students. They were going through a school renovation. So she challenged the students to recreate the school, redesign it in Minecraft with some infusing some of their ideas, like a welcome garden, a learning commons, and it was a phenomenal walkthrough that they created. These girls, part of the Girls Who Game initiative with Dell and in Minecraft, and so when we introduced them as the winners with Christian Mishlik, the superintendent, on Zoom, announced the winner. He said that he was going to speak to the architects because he wanted to infuse some of their ideas within the school
Wow.
renovation. So, giving kids agency and real world challenges is impactful. And another example is we just had a Prime Minister Award winner who was Teacher of the Year at McMurray Public School, Zelia Capiteo Tavares. We just presented her with the award. And she and a colleague yearly have a business day challenge that spans about 2 months where grade 4 and 5 students create a business. They form teams, and it covers all their curriculum. They're letter writing, they're doing spreadsheets, they're doing design thinking, and they have a showcase in the gymnasium selling their products. They're wearing their t-shirts, logo t-shirts that they created. There are students who have come back and said to the teachers that they were inspired to go into different streams, whether it's business or engineering, because of that experience in that class. So, when provide, project based, challenge based learning opportunities for kids, that's really impactful. And those are just two examples of many, many that I've seen. But we got to get beyond pockets of innovation that we've been talking about for the last 15 years. And that's what inspires us to share the videos. It's a video challenge because we want to share the learning that's happening across our country. As Canadians, we're very conservative and humble typically. And then, so how do we, that was the inspiration because education, as we know, is provincial jurisdiction, and curriculum varies across the country and the territories. And so, those are just two, Dean, that I think really illuminate the potential and
Well,
when we give kids agency.
Well, and I think again, it's funny as you share those names, and I'm very, I've known Zelia and I know Melissa Burns, and even though you and I are thousands of kilometers apart, serving a very large country, it's amazing how many people we share in common because, unfortunately, we still are in some pockets, right? And I think, but again, I think it comes down to creating networks because it goes back to, and it's a book that actually, again, Gary Steger gave me a book called "The Book of Learning and Forgetting" by Dr. Frank Smith from
Yes,
University
we
of
read that
Toronto,
in
and
our
and
program.
and the key idea behind his book is you learn from the company you keep. And so
Fascinating.
hanging around with people getting and again we're fighting a battle in education of isolation. People they
Yeah.
don't know about these teachers, they don't know about what's going on because they're so busy spending time just getting the daily grind of it done. So I think there's a need for leaders to create opportunities and spaces for people to work more in community. And it's not about saying, here, you got to do this Minecraft thing now, or you need to set up this incubator thing that Azalea has, or whatever it is. It's about seeing what the opportunities are and then figuring out from you, like for yourself. And this is the same thing we want for students, like what matters to me and what might
Right.
I do to better to grow and what. But so
Absolutely.
I think it comes back to this all the time, and sometimes I feel like I'm beating a dead horse because it's so difficult to sometimes make these things happen. And so I think it's critical. It's critical to our
Absolutely.
success. Is creating networks and communities that can help us thrive.
And here's some perspective. The reality is, we hear of teachers facing 100 different apps a week in their school week. We can't expect them to be proficient and experts with 100 different apps, right? So, uh, you know, leveraging the I'm a big fan of leveraging, and crowdsourcing, right? So the smartest person in the room is no longer the teacher. It's the crowd, right? That's my philosophy. So how many teachers do you know that will say, I don't know exactly how to do this, but can you show me? That's so unarming. It's so
Mm-hmm.
unarming when you ask a student to show you as a teacher. But to get to that point and to get faculties of education up to speed on where things are at. Like one of the programs we're launching, is digital transformation at the faculty level and going in and providing insight as to what is actually happening across the country and beyond, because some of them are lagging behind. Professors are passionate, some of them, about their research, and they get so isolated. I spent 10 years at a university. I still am very involved on different boards, and I know what the campuses, the faculties and departments could be like. And listen, when we partnered with McGill, it was a fantastic partnership. They announced the launch of their EdTech office at our conference, at our EdTech summit. We inspired them. We worked collaboratively to make an impact. So they launched this office that they didn't have. There were fragmented elements of EdTech happening, but we really, collaborated to raise the bar. And they took the opportunity during COVID to renovate their learning commons, a few classrooms, state of the art. So the learning environments are just as important as the tools and the teaching pedagogy. You have to create the environment, the scene for success. And there are a number of key elements, as we know, the learning environment, the professional learning piece, as you are immersed in every day, is vitally critical. And what are faculties of education doing to help prepare these, pre-service and in-service teachers? So we've got some challenges, but between organizations like ours and yours, and passionate people are the catalysts behind this.
Yeah, I mean, again, both you and I get to spend a lot of time with some super forward-thinking leaders that always inspire us and give us hope. But I think our task is to help those who aren't as forward-thinking or struggling with that, because it's been 3 years plus of people just getting by day, and that's not a real way to see growth if you're just sort of maintaining. And so I think there's a lot there. You and I both know there's lots of opportunity and lots of potential. So as I kind of wrap up, I got three kind of quick questions for you, Robert, that sort of
Sure.
that'll just sort of keep us on a light note. So, question number one: do you have a book that you're reading that you'd share and say, "Hey, this is a book that's," and it can be personal, it can be professional.
Yeah.
What are you reading now that's kind of exciting
You
or have
know,
read?
uh, I'm big on podcasts,
Yeah.
and that's something I try to. Reading is something that I don't have a lot of time for, so I do read. I follow a number of different publications, but yeah, the podcasting. I've gone back and I've watched Marshall McLuhan's podcasts, or interviews and lectures that are just fascinating, because some things still apply today. He envisioned the internet back in the 60s. So I'm a big fan of podcasts, and following some of the latest theorists and that are out there, and that's what I tend to do. I there's so many different great podcasts and books out there right now that I just don't have enough time. So that's my kind of way to stay on top of things.
What about a Netflix series, TV series that
Oh my God.
you kind of good
White
escape for you?
Lotus, White Lotus, Ozark, the Formula One. Uh, I enjoy Formula One.
There's a new one coming out on Netflix on the PGA Tour based on the Formula One
Oh wow,
model.
I
Yeah,
can't
it's
wait.
supposed to. It'll be out in a couple of weeks, so that'll be interesting.
So you and I being golfers, truth be told, I feel badly, but I'm going to be playing down in Palm Springs. I wish you could join me in 2 weeks at
Oh,
ERDI
that'll be good.
US.
Nice, nice, nice. Last question, and you can answer this one as do you live in Mississauga or Brampton?
I'm in Mississauga. I grew up in Toronto
Okay,
in Little Italy.
okay, so you can pick whatever you like. But my last question is, and I'm asking this to all different people around Canada. Besides the more obvious places, what's an underrated site or place? If someone came to visit Mississauga, says you should go see this place. Not a lot of people know about it. It's kind of a cool. So it could be a restaurant. It could
Yeah.
be a place to visit. But just for a visitor coming to your part of the world, where's an underrated place to visit?
Yeah, I would say Port Credit. Our waterfront in Port Credit is quite amazing, and it gives you a feel like you're on vacation somewhere. And we get a lot of tourists actually that come and enjoy the waterfront with some great restaurants right on the water. There's a great library which is right on the Credit River as well. And yeah, we love going down to Port Credit, and so and the city hall. It's an iconic architecture that was built back in the '70s, late '70s, I guess. And my wife happens to be city clerk, so I know it well. And but the council chamber is just incredible architecture, inspiring place to explore.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Robert, for your time, and best of luck this week in FETC and beyond.
My pleasure, Dean. Thank you so much for having me today.